And now you're on camera flossing.
All right, so this is part of the OPEC CCP Level 1 final project. The videos in question that I'm going to do for this portion of the project were apparently supposed to be done with clients as they were going through the assessment. I apologize for not having done it that way. Unfortunately, with the start of the new school year, it's been a little bit difficult to get some of the people back in at a schedule that matches mine when the gym is otherwise quiet. So I've asked Jody to fill in as sort of client X, if you will. She's a coach of ours, but she also represents and has a lot of the issues that we all tend to deal with. So some of the things that are applicable to her obviously were applicable to some of the other people that I worked with. So the movement imbalance we're going to look at first and foremost for Jody is going to be most apparent in her overhead squat. We're going to use that from the assessment portion of the project. So Jody's going to go ahead and throw her hands overhead, and she's going to go ahead and execute 2 to 3 overhead squats for me. And what we're probably not going to see is the most glaring issue that I've identified for her. So we may see it, we may not, but when we turn to the side or the profile, she's going to go ahead and do it again, and I'm going to ask her to actually hold her last one at the bottom. So she's going to go ahead, full range of motion on the way down. Good, and back up. And she's going to try that again at least 1 or 2 more times. Good, once more. And what we're going to see is how she sort of rolls under at the very bottom. So her hip starts to tuck in underneath. Her lumbar spine starts to flex just a little bit. If she were loaded, that would obviously be a pretty big problem. So she's going to come on back up and relax. Now, we know from Jody's intake that she's had some lower back issues. In fact, she's had a pretty substantive issue. That has translated into some hip issues as well that she's been working through. So what we can understand and appreciate here is first and foremost, she's going to have to do some pretty extensive flexibility, some controlled articular rotations, whether it's from the quadruped or standing position for her hip. We're going to do some single leg balance work just to make sure that she's got the intramuscular coordination to actually execute healthy movement patterns. We're going to certainly incorporate a good amount of core work, whether that's planks and side planks, but also some supine lying hip bridges. So she's going to really work on the integrity of that hip musculature, almost the way you would work on the rotator cuff musculature of the shoulder. We're going to do some side lying leg raises, maybe some abduction and or adduction. And then we're probably going to also incorporate some band resisted work for her, whether that's some monster walks or things of that nature. But basically what we're going to do is try to work on the overall integrity of that lumbopelvic hip region, make sure she's got good full range of motion that's pain-free, make sure we don't load her for her squatting patterns until she's able to get that depth without that tuck under at the bottom. If we do want to incorporate some load, we may do it to a box or a box squat version to avoid any sort of injuries there. But basically we're going to take our time loading Jody in any of her squats for the time being, and we're going to work on body weight movements initially, so some step ups and some lunges, things of that nature. So that's how I would go about starting to program for a client such as Jody with that, what some people call the butt wink, but where we would want to make sure that we addressed that issue first and foremost before we started worrying about some of the more aggressive movements. So that is the movement imbalance portion.